it's going to be posted too. So, welcome everybody from downtown Washington Borough, from M Galleries. Tonight we're going to have Arts and Poetry fundraiser featuring the artistic talents of BJ Ward, and we're going to hear from our candidates Josephine Noon, Sonia Ron, and Chris Bachman. And then we're going to auction off 3 paintings and some works of art from BJ Ward. All the proceeds will be donated to the campaign. People can donate at www.washboroughdems.org. You can see the web address up here, hopefully, on the screen right here. And so you can go to the website. When you see it, you have a very large red banner at the top, and you just click the donate button. And we do appreciate all your donations for the campaign. It's interesting to know that even local campaigns take resources, money, time, and talent to be successful. The cost of internet addresses, postcards, postage, even door hangers are not inconsequential. And even in this time of COVID, you need to have those resources to be successful because you lack the personal outreach, which is typically relied upon to do campaigning, even in a small town such as the borough. So again, I thank Frank for opening space for us tonight. I thank BJ for bringing up the idea. And I thank our candidates too. I do acknowledge that it takes a lot of strength of character for one to run for public office. You know, to put yourself out there in front of the public, you know, face potentially criticism. It takes a lot to do that, and I recognize that in all our candidates. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Frank May.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and I'm very happy to host this event at the gallery. The paintings I'm going to donate to Josephine, the campaign, are here. There's 3 paintings from a series that I do continually. The top one will be $300, $500, and $700. So the first to donate $300 to the website washboroughdems.org, and once the painting, we'll get the painting. 100% of the proceeds go to the campaign, $500 and $700. So these are original oil on canvases that I did, and I continue to do. I do a series very similar, and I'll explain later the concept behind the work at the end when we're done talking to everybody. So thank you. So hop on, 300, 500, 700, you get these paintings. So introduce BJ Ward. He's going to read some of his poetry.
Thank you. All right, well, I'm just going to jump right into this. So I just want to say I'm very happy to be here in support of Josephine and Sonia and Chris, and I've not been this excited about a ticket for our hometown my whole life. You know, it's a very different town when I was growing up here, and a lot of empty storefronts, and there's a lot of cynicism I hear in this town, and I think that Josephine and her running mates are just what we need to turn the corner. Anyone making a donation tonight, you can, as Frank just said, get one of his paintings here. But for a smaller donation, my first 2 books I wrote here in Washington while I was living here. This one I wrote while I was living in the Washington Heights apartments up on South Lincoln. And this one I wrote right around the corner from the art gallery here when I was living on School Street. This one. You can have either one for a $25 donation. For a $50 donation, you can have both, and we'll be happy to mail it out to you if you want to donate online. I'm just going to read for about, 15 minutes or so, some poems that I think have to do with our wonderful hometown of Washington, New Jersey. And maybe some of the social issues that I think can be addressed with the right votes. Here's one. When I was a kid. It's called, the title is actually the last line of a storybook I was reading to my son when he was 5 years old. And I think the rest is self-explanatory. It's called, "And All the Peasants Cheered for the King, the End." I close the storybook and my son looks up. He is swaddled with a bravery he knows nothing about. Astronauts floating across his pajamas. Soldiers bivouacking on his bookshelf. Knights on his lamp so that his light shines right through armor. What's a peasant, Daddy? I don't think much of the answer. A poor person. Like Grandma and Grandpa? And now the story is personal. My son plays on the junkers my father works on forever. The front yard is Grandpa's cold scriptoria, and he writes everything in blue-collar serifs, spending his days off rendering metal into combustion. Henry Ford invented the printing press that churned out his Bible. And my mother, with her 3 shirts that fit, her Bayonne accent a Cockney in my son's suburban world. When I lend my parents money, that word has to be used, lend, or else they wouldn't take it. Even poor people have pride as a lawyer. I was his age when I first knew we were poor. Are we poor? I'd ask my mother. Her eyes were just beginning their descent deeper into her beauty. They may have begun to run away from the world just then at her older son's question. No, her mouth said, as obviously as possible. Her hand stroked my hair. It said, I'm erasing that question. Her tremble said, yesterday my boss held an empty wallet to my head. But were we rich somehow? Come on, you know the cliches. But were we rich in another way? My father knows how to make stillness move. At the food town, the cashiers always smiled, for my mother was an S&H green stamp magnate. My brother and I learned how to love without dropping our eyes below the neck. If money's king, my family served it well. We only asked to be able to sleep through the night. And now my own son is looking up at me, seeing something he doesn't recognize. I tell him, peasants live in kingdoms, and shut out the light. The astronauts are still fastened in their flotation. The soldiers still guard the fairy tales. The problem with clapping is now you're committed, right? If you don't clap after the next one, you're gonna think that was good. That's the problem.
We didn't bring any tomatoes.
Yeah.
We snap next. Right?
Oh, we can be.
Yeah, that's
kids,
right.
Yeah.
You know, so one of the things Sonia Ron is so involved in is working with families who are in trouble and dedicated so much for a career to that, and I so admire that. My third book, which isn't one of my first two, obviously, there's a story in it. It's called Gravedigger's Birthday, and if you read it from front to back, about a quarter of the poems deal with a family that's a lot like my family. This is my most recent book, but it's a collected poems. It's the first 3 books in the 4th manuscript. It's called Jackleg Opera. So if you read that book in that order, at this point you know that the father is a violent drunk, and it's the late 1970s, and my family's Catholic, and there are very few places to turn. And to leave my father was a sin. We ended up sleeping in the Acme parking lot. That's true, and that's not fictionalized in the book. Now it's the Dyfus. Like, how do you make that up, right? But when I was a kid, it was the Acme parking lot. And you know, one of the things that really upset me when I heard that WRNJ debate between Mayor Higgins, who I think is a decent man. I think he's a good man. But what I love about Josephine is she doesn't differentiate between the Black Lives Matter movement and appreciating the police. It doesn't have to be a dichotomy. It's a false dichotomy. And Josephine understands nuance like that, which is what a great leader should have, an understanding of nuance. So this is about my mother, my brother, and I, or a family like us, I guess, living in my mother's car for 5 nights in the Acme parking lot right here at the edge of town. It's called Bastards with Badges. A bottle was never more tyrannous than when smashed against the wall behind my mother. She left him, taking us with her. And for 5 nights, we slept in the rotting frame of her Chevy Impala, shipwrecked on the dark shore of the Acme parking lot. Now, Bradford says to me, all cops are bastards with badges. Some acid laced with vanilla truth. I know how the sense of power could be a siren song that out-seduces the sense of justice. Just an ocean cops float on with its monotonous sounds. And I know there are no words to describe for Bradford the precise smell of the Impala's road as I lay over the transmission hump. Behind the long front seat, my brother tossing on the vinyl specimen board of the back seat, tossing in the tidal wave of fear that moved all night through the Chevrolet. How can I explain to Bradford that there was a cop car poised at the far end of the lot like a storm waiting to approach, kept at bay by some invisible high-pressure system? I hated those cops, those salivating hybrids of sharks and Dobermans who faced us all night, making sure we didn't steal. Everyone knew my family. How can I explain to Bradford that they were watching us? Some kind of angels with guns, cherry-top lighthouses as we drifted across dark, unknown currents, guardians of the asphalt. For once, we had guardians, all of us, prone in the car, stretched between locked doors, so far from the darkening sky that was always in our house, so close to the drive shaft. For 5 safe nights, and I looked at my beautiful mother, a first mate suddenly forced to be captain of a ship out of control and already half wrecked. My beautiful mother, her sleeping head right between the steering wheel and gas pedal, as if her dreams could drive us towards dawn. The sun eventually smashed through our windows, glimmering like the sky's shiny new badge. I surveyed our survival. The cops were gone. Just the 3 of us lying flat out on our possessions. Above us all rose my mother's hand, dangling from the column shifter like some battle-tattered flag for independence, surrounded by the glass shards and quietude of a parking lot gone empty. my beautiful mother. Safer than ever before, even in defection. A quarter tank of gas, fully empowered. Her car pointed in every direction. So, a lot of poems set around here, and this one, I'm going to lighten the mood a little with this one. I'll read two more, this one, then one more. This one, when I was going to Warren Hills High School, I had a lot of wonderful teachers, and one of them was Mrs. Bowen. Some of you might remember Mrs. Bowen. She was there for a long, long time, and she made us study Greek mythology. Specifically, we had to read the Edith Hamilton book. And I didn't understand what that had to do with my life growing up in Washington, New Jersey. And then one day, I went into the ShopRite, which was down on Route 57 at the time. And it all became clear to me.
Is this my poem, the one that I like?
It's one that you like. It's one that you like.
One that I like.
One
You know
that
which
you like.
one I'm talking about.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not the groundhog poem. I know you like the groundhog poem too. This is the
Yeah,
other one.
okay.
Well, I mean, from WNTI days.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's called Mythology in the ShopRite. Not having a boat or a whimsical chorus of Greek gods, I'm forced to live most of my Homeric epics at the ShopRite in Washington, New Jersey. And so it was a moment of moral significance when my Wise Bravo's restaurant-style tortilla chips stand at $1.50 instead of the sale price of 99 cents. Their scanners looked up to one great body, like a Cerberus with 3 checkout aisles, guarding purchasing efficiency. Zip, zip, bag, bag, beep, beep, cha-ching is the background music of the subtle hell I entered, going to customer service, armed with receipt and chips, and recounted my woes. Evelyn, price check, thundered down from the drop ceiling. And Evelyn appeared. 5 minutes later, having checked, she said, no, it's $1.50. I said no, and asked her to follow. I was in charge now, armed with receipt and chips and righteousness, and the knowledge a torturous journey provides. We arrived at the aisle. I pretended I was Moses, parting the wall of chips from the wall of soda, leading Evelyn to the promised land, where everything is priced accurately and Wise chips are only 99 cents. Oh, the 10 ounces are 99 cents. You have the 14 ounce. I said, but then all the 14 ounces are behind the 99 cent sign. She said, you should have looked. Are you unappeasable? I screamed. Is the UPC code the new rock I must push up the hill? The new eagle plucking at my liver? Evelyn? Her mouth parted like clouds. All right, I'll give you the 51 cents. But don't tell anyone. At the customer service counter, it was counted. 2 quarters and a penny, all of them glinting like fire I had stolen from the gods as I crossed the dark parking lot. 4 extra ounces of Wise Bravos than I had ever bargained for.
That's my favorite book.
So I'll close the reading with this, and may I remind you, this is a fundraiser event for the Democratic ticket running for mayor and town council here in Washington Borough, New Jersey, my hometown, the artist Frank May's hometown. We're here at M Galleries downtown. We'll still be here for at least another hour if you want to come down and meet the candidates, talk with them. Come on down. anyone who donates at least $25, you get one of my first 2 books. It's either a first or second printing of them. And it's $50, you get both books. And then we have paintings here for 300, 400?
300, 500, 700.
300, 500, 700. Original art by Frank May. I'll close my reading with this, and then we'll introduce the candidates. So this book, which is my first book, it's called Landing in New Jersey with Soft Hands. Now out of print. This is, like I said, a collected poem, so they're all in here, which is from Random House. But this is my first book. Came out a long, long time ago. I was living in the Washington Heights apartments, writing it, and it's dedicated to my mother. But there's not a single poem in here about her. So for years, people asked me, why is your first book dedicated to your mother when there's not a single poem in there about her? And so the title of this poem is, Upon Being Asked Why I Dedicated My First Book to My Mother, when there's not a single poem in there about her. And just like many of the other poems in that third book, it opens with Greek mythology and immediately comes to Washington, New Jersey, or an area around here. Some of you might remember the James Way in Mansfield Township. That makes an appearance in here. One of the byproducts, and this goes back to Sonia's work that she does with families, one of the byproducts of substance abuse, why it's so important, even if it doesn't affect you directly, it does indirectly, because it affects our community. And one of the byproducts people often don't think about is that the money's gone. Not only is that person doing such damages to their family, to their emotional life, to a lot of things, but the money's gone, which has a ripple effect on the family. In 8th grade, went to Warren Hills, was Warren Hills Junior High back then. I had a wonderful 8th grade teacher, changed my life. Her name's Mrs. Kosa, Maureen Kosa. She started asking me to read books that had words in it that I never heard. My father dropped out of school in 8th grade. My mother was a waitress down at the town restaurant in Clinton, just like a diner on Main Street there. We didn't use fancy words in the house. And so my mother did something extraordinary that's also morally ambiguous. As Prometheus must have pocketed fire, slipping it from Olympus in the folds of his compassion and duplicity, so my mother stole a Webster's Pocket Dictionary. The Mansfield Jamesway department store was all discounts and lighting that refused to flatter. Commerce sliding through its aisles as my mother slipped that book into her jacket, getting 30,000 words fatter. I know the arguments. That's stealing. What about the owner? What about teaching her son what's right? In truth, the entire Jamesway Corporation would go out of business 21 years later. And I'm sure it had to do with the Webster's Riverside Pocket Dictionary, whose pages held all the words of Ulysses and Paradise Lost and Look Homeward Angel, but jumbled in alphabetical order. What can I say? She stole a dictionary from me because there were no words a judge could use that would be worse than her son starving for a lexicon he could grip like a wrench and loosen all those dumb bolts in his brain. Receiving that dictionary taught me rectitude and the many dictates that come down from its cloistral mountaintop. I was suddenly rich, a son from the most indigent family. How lucky. When I first started to rub against my language, to sidle up to my own tongue, my mother stole me a book. Years later, I gave her one back.
Very good.
Well, thank you. So, it is my great pleasure to introduce what I believe is the great hope for Washington, New Jersey. And I mean that with as much sincerity as possible. She is whip smart, she's compassionate, she listens, and she will tell you honestly if she disagrees with you and give you good reasons that are always predicated on compassion. And you can hear that whenever she speaks in a crowd. And again, listen to that WRNJ debate, which is the only real debate I believe the two candidates have had, but it was luminous. It illuminated so much, and that's also what made me really get in here and jump behind. I should say I'm not a registered Democrat. Don't kill me, Chris. I am staunchly independent. I voted for candidates of both parties. I vote for people, and Josephine Noon is by far the best candidate in this race and the best hope for our town. Please welcome Josephine Noon.
Hi, good evening. I don't know how I'm gonna live up to that, but thank you very, very, very much. So my name is Josephine Noon. I'm running for mayor of Washington Borough. I am an experienced councilwoman here in the borough and a 25-year resident of Washington. I have deep roots in Washington. I live in the house my grandparents built. My husband, Kevin, and I raised our son in Washington, and over the years, we've made many friends through attending PTO meetings, recreational programs, community events, and local businesses like M Galleries, where we are tonight. And in my 6 years on council, I have worked to improve services and infrastructure here in the borough while avoiding tax increases. I am the council liaison to the Washington Business Improvement District, otherwise known as the BID. I manage the Washington Borough Farmers Market in partnership with the BID and the Borough Green Team. The Farmers Market supports local farms and small businesses and brought over 2,000 people into our downtown in 2020. I worked to pass an abandoned properties ordinance, which has decreased the number of abandoned properties in the borough and improved the maintenance of properties which are still vacant. I worked to create an open space trust fund, which enabled us to obtain over $550,000 in grants from Warren County and the state of New Jersey to purchase the 80-acre Shabakong Mountain Preserve as recreational open space that will not be developed. So I'm asking for your vote because my professional career as a school administrator has provided me with leadership skills to be an effective mayor. My educational background has provided me with a clear understanding of economic policy necessary to advocate for annual budgets that maximize services to residents and minimize tax increases and borrowing. I'm committed to this community. I'm at the farmers market and in the downtown every Saturday from June to September talking to residents. I'm a cooperative team player. I have worked to build positive relationships with my fellow council members, borough employees, our business community, and members of the public. I listen to people's concerns and work collaboratively to get things accomplished. I will ensure fiscal responsibility and transparency by working with council and our chief financial officer to create a 5-year spending plan for large capital expenses and use it to inform the public. I'm a strong advocate for clean water and clean air, so Washington Borough will continue to be a safe and healthy place to raise our children. Finally, I will proactively communicate with Washington Borough residents and business owners through social media, which I know how to use, and monthly newsletters. As a councilwoman in Washington Borough for the past 6 years and throughout my career in the New Jersey public schools, I have demonstrated leadership and service to the community. I am ready to lead Washington Borough as the next mayor. When elected, I will work proactively and constructively to help us recover from the COVID-19 epidemic My running mates, Sonia Ron and Chris Boutnight, and I will bring to council our love of this community and our desire to work together to make things better for everyone. Thank you so much for your support, and please vote. And now we're going to hear from Sonia. You ready? Thank you. Sonia, Ron.
Thank you, Josephine, and thank you to one of Washington's favorite sons, BJ Ward.
Yes.
I've had the pleasure of knowing BJ for a while now. My spouse works with him, so it's always great to see one of Washington's sons do well. I've been asked by many people, why am I running for council? I've never held public office. And we've been saying in this campaign over and over again, why? So when we first got together, we started thinking, okay, well, that's a good question, right? A lot of people will ask that. And what came to mind right away was, what should we be running for? And it's community first, politics second. And I truly, truly believe that, because we here in Washington, we're for our community. That's what we should be all really interested in, regardless of who is under what party. We should all work together to do what's right, to do what's best for our families. We have lived here, my family and I, for about 20 years now, or a little bit over, I think, Josephine, right? Our sons actually went through school together. So it's like we're all, in many ways, in this community, a family. And family looks out for one another. And that's why I think Chris, Josephine, and I are really interested in running for this office, for these offices. So I want to tell you why I am running. I can tell you that I want, paved streets. I want better garbage disposal, snow removal. When a tree comes down, how quickly it's taken care of. But those things are important. But there are other things that are important too. It's the love of the community, of our neighbors, of our friends that live here. Like my children went through school here. I remember going to the football games, watching my sons play, or hearing endlessly about a basketball game when we would go to an endless amount of basketball games here with Warren Hills. Bottom line is, I want to see some things get better. I want to see some things that I believe we all need to see that need to change. We have a real problem with substance use here in Washington. We have real issues like mental health. And perhaps I love this. It's not only that I live here, I even work here. I've chosen to work here. I work for the Family Support Organization. And basically what I do day in and day out is I help families that have children with behavioral, emotional, developmental, and substance use needs. What's more important than our family, than our friends? We all know someone that has been going through something like this. I don't think there is not one person here that hasn't had a relative or a child or a friend that hasn't gone through something like that. Going through this pandemic has also brought a lot of other things to light that we really have to look at. I was surprised to hear, and maybe I shouldn't be because this is the work that I do, the needs that are going on in our community. We are having issues with the basic things like food and housing. These are things that we really need to look at. And as concerning as all these subjects are, during this time, I've also seen my friends here, my neighbors here, for the first time perhaps in years saying to their neighbor, "Hi, how are you? Are you okay?" Or dropping off groceries when they've known that there's been a need. So this is, if not this, one of the best reasons why I want to run. I'm proud of this town. I'm proud of the people that live here. Yeah, we may have some things that we need to work on. I think we all agree to that. But I think that together we can do this. Together we can do this. And that's the thing, and I think that's why community first and politics second resonates, and why it's so important. And I'm not a politician, and I'm not gonna tell you that I know everything. But what I will tell you is that if I think it's right, I'm gonna fight for it. If I think it's wrong, I won't vote for it. And if I don't know about it, I'll find out about it, and I'll let you know. So that, I hope, is the reason that you vote for me, for our ticket, for Josephine as mayor, for Chris Banknai as council, and for me, Sonia Ron. I encourage you to vote, because that is a privilege. That is an honor to vote. And that is your right, and that is mine, and it's also your duty to do so. So I thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, BJ, as always. Your poetry is unbelievable, and as I said, you're one of Washington's sons, and we're very proud of you.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you.
Without further ado, I want to introduce to you my running mate for council, Chris Banknai. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. Anyone watching, thank you for the continued support of the town and anyone else who out there who supports us, who's donated. My name is Christopher Balknight. I've been here for 6 years. I've been coming here actually more since 1996, so that's over 24 years. 2020's been we can call it whatever, we can call it a lot of things. It's been a roller coaster year. It's been up and down. Loss of jobs, mental health, the economy. We keep saying everything's good, but it's really not. We have a problem. It's a really huge one. We're not sticking together. We're divided. I sound like a broken record. I can talk about it every day. I've been talking about it since January. Matter of fact, I've been talking about it for years. Clearly, it's a big divide in what's going to help us. What do we need? Not just as a town, but even as a nation. It's clearly gone south. At this point, let's stop arguing over the small things. We're getting arguments over signs, flags that are flown in people's yard. People are destroying property just by going in the yard. People are snatching flags off the yard. That's wrong. I don't care what candidate's running. That's their yard. That's their prerogative. That's what they're gonna vote for. I'll be honest. No, and let's have another reason. Excuse me. Let's have another look at. Look at every candidate running right now. Does anybody know really what the candidates stand for? Who we stand for? I know what I stand for. I know my other two running mates stand for. But a lot of people still don't know who we are. They don't talk to us sometimes. I have an open door. I've been open on Facebook. I'm open on Instagram. I'm open on Twitter. But yeah, I get labeled as something but what I'm not. I'm open. I'm central. I want things to get better. I want to reinvest in our town. That starts with us. One by one, individual, every household to household. That starts with us financially. We need to reinvest in this town clearly. We need more businesses in our business district. We need the roads fixed. We need to lower the taxes. There's a lot of stuff that we have to do, but it's gonna take time. It's not a 4-year fix. This is a over period generational fix. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to run. It's been quite an exciting journey, but it's only a start for me. Win, lose, or draw, I'm still gonna help this town, or wherever I go, or wherever I do. That's what I am. I'm a helper, and I'm a fighter, and I'm 100% real. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Josephine. Thank you, Frank. And thank you, BJ. And thank all of you, whether you're physically here or maybe when you're looking out, watching us on the internet, for joining us tonight for our fundraiser. We still have the paintings, I believe, for auction, or for donation, I should say.
Yeah, 100% donation.
100% proceeds does benefit our campaign. And we have 2 of the books from BJ Ward that BJ has kindly donated to our campaign too. So to donate, you go to www.washboroughdennis.org. You'll see a very large, prominent red banner on the top with a donate button. You just click on that donate button. We'll get it to an ActBlue site, and that's where you'll make your donation online securely on the internet. So, in some closing remarks, you know, I don't have the benefit, as some of you, BJ, Josephine, Chris Bachnight, for growing up in Washington. And I've only been here for like 15 years, right? Oh,
Significant.
relatively
That's pretty
speaking,
significant.
you know, relatively speaking, I'm somewhat of a newcomer to this town, right? So when I talk to people and they start getting to know me, right, they look at me as like, you know, they see a middle-aged, white, professional guy. They see my wife, married, with 2 kids. Then they start learning, hey, you're a Democrat. You know, you're involved with the party. You know, you're the municipal chair of the Washington Borough Democrats. And they look at me, and they realize I'm a Democrat. And they look at me again, and they ask me a question, what, you lost or something? You don't look like a Democrat. You're playing for the other team, for Christ's sakes, right? So they asked me, hey, Vitalos, you know, why are you a Democrat? Why are you proud to be a Democrat? Right? It's a kind of legitimate question, right, when they look at me, right? So I reflect, right? And I'm like, why am I a Democrat? You know, what is it about me? And you know, part of that answer really is how I grew up, really. You know, came from a Roman Catholic family. We're immigrants from Eastern Europe, right? And those immigrants, when they immigrated so many years ago, 100 years ago, they were laborers. They're trade union people, right? And the trade unions are strong, and we all know from our high school that trade unions and Democrats have a history go back to FDR, right? And those same grandparents that came from Eastern Europe sent their sons to fight in World War II. Some were sent to the German front, some were sent to the Japanese front. You see, I grew up in a family that was strongly Union, strongly patriotic, and just by the nature of those 2 things, strongly Democratic. And that's how I grew up. But then I reflect some more. I'm like, you know, that's not the whole story though. Because I realize there's other people like me, you know, look like me, that aren't Democratic. You know, there's something else there, right? So I reflect on it some more. I ask myself the question, why? I think answering part of that question is diversity, right? I firmly believe that women, people of color, if they have the God-given talent and are afforded opportunities to develop that talent, can be successful. And I see that in the Democratic Party. We afford people diversely afford people these opportunities. And that attracts me because, in my opinion, diversity is strength. To shut out certain people with that talent, I think is wrong. And that is the reason why I'm proud to be a Democrat. So, again, getting back to the campaign, it does take resources to do a campaign. It takes not only the talent and the energy and the commitment to this town, it also takes money, right? Well, and get the question too, why money, right? Well, it takes money for postcards, it takes money for door hangers, to get our message out. You know, it's good that we have the people, they have the ideas, but the thing that connects the people and the ideas to the residents is the communication. And that's where, you know, we have that need. So again, I thank Frank, I thank DJ Ward for donating their talent and their resources to help us out. I'm asking all of you to go to our website, www.washboroughdems.org, make a donation, and I do thank everyone here for your support tonight. Thank you.